What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Good Mic Work Commentaries. We are here for a Raw review for April 10th, 2023. Tonight was a weird Raw from Seattle. All sorts of travel issues were plaguing the locker room. Only about 50% of the locker room was there during the day prior to Raw, which resulted in a lot of rewrites of the show. But they ended up delivering on the fly a pretty good night of wrestling. We had a title change, a heel turn, couple of good, just hard-fought matches, some sexy ones on paper, and it wasn't all bad. Cody officially challenged Brock Lesnar, which wasn't surprising, and I think all things considered, WWE handled these travel issues pretty well. They had to scrap a couple of matches. I know there was one with Riddle and Zayn that had to be tossed, maybe some others that I'm not even aware of, but they did have to do a lot of rewrites tonight, and I still thought the show was pretty decent for what it was. So I thought we would come up here tonight and do a Raw review since I have got an extremely busy work week ahead of me, and I'm not sure when I'm going to be up here again other than maybe a mic drop or a short before Saturday's Winged Eagle podcast. So I figured if I didn't come up tonight and talk about some stuff, you might not see me all week. So that's why we're here to talk about Monday Night Raw. Also to catch up on a few of the news tidbits that I haven't talked about with you guys yet. We're going to talk a little bit about the WWE sale. I have not mentioned anything about Vicki Guerrero and that whole situation. Also, AEW announcing that they are going to be hitting up Wembley Stadium for All In August, and that's really interesting. Plus, Triple H announced last Friday on SmackDown that we are just a few weeks away from the next WWE draft. So I want to get into a few of those stories, discuss that a little bit. Then we will run through the results of Raw tonight. Look ahead to Backlash. Look ahead to King and Queen of the Ring. Look ahead to Money in the Bank. Look ahead to SummerSlam, All In, All Out, all sorts of stuff, and anything else you want to discuss in the chat. So that's what we're here to do. It's going to be pretty casual. My notes are relatively light, but since I'm home tonight and wrestling was on, I should talk to you guys, hang out with you guys, and all that jazz. So that's what we're here to do. Thank you to everybody who joined us last night for our impromptu Backlash 2001 watch-along. I didn't decide to do a watch-along last night until the night before. So usually you guys know way ahead of time which shows we're going to do on Sunday nights. But since it was Easter, I didn't think I'd be able to be up here and do one until about Saturday. Then I realized, you know what? I actually do have Sunday night free. So let's rock. Thank you to everybody that joined in for that. That was a lot of fun, reliving Backlash 2001 and the two-man power trip. And hell, we were on the doorstep of a two-man power trip last week. Really thought for a second there they might be doing that with Brock and Roman, but it was not to be. So lots to discuss tonight. Should be a chill, casual hangout. And hope you guys are doing well. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat, knock out some shout-outs, some super chats, and then we'll get down to business. You guys know the drill. I've never been more desperate for likes in the history of this channel, so please smash that thumbs up button. It helps me. It helps the algorithm. It helps everything. If you're watching this video later on demand, please drop a comment below as well. And if you are watching me right now and you are not a subscriber, hook me up. Next goal is 40,000, so that's what we're looking to do, and we'll be cracking 36,000 here in just a couple of days. So we're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. We'll have one of those YouTube play buttons behind me by the time I'm, 85? So let's shoot for that in the next 40 years. But thanks again for being here. Let me make sure I can be heard. All right, we're looking good. Right on. Let's go to the chat. First person I want to shout out, boy, Zane G. Good to see you, man. He was first, and you came down to downtown Los Angeles and hung out with us just a little over a week ago, Zane. Good to see you. Rodrigo is here as well. So is Yessie, Jason S., J. Lambo. We have Zach Palgett, Ben Espinoza, the Juliet, and Deshaun Robinson. Good little chunk of family members there. Good to see you guys as always. George Morris is here with his token $5. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? And how is Tito? Raw, 0 out of 10. And my cat Strudel just chased a stray cat, 3 blocks, but I got her back. I've had her for 9 years. Jesus, man, where do you live that your cat can be roaming out around like that? Here I live in California. Tito can never go outside, and we have got a shitload of cats in the yard behind us. Whoever owns the house behind us does a lot of gardening, and there is at least 12 cats that live outside in this backyard here. They're pretty sheltered, safe from coyotes, and they're running around all the time, and Tito sees them out the window, and he wants to go out there and play with them so bad, but he will never be allowed outside of this fortress that he lives in, because I don't want to go chase him down, and plus he's crazy. He just run right out in the street, and that would be game over for old Tito. But glad you got Strudel back. And sorry you did not enjoy Raw. 0 out of 10. George has never dropped like a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. It's either 10 out of 10 or 0 out of 10. No in between. George is pretty black and white. That's why we like him. Good to see you again, George. Max Pokebra is here. James Williams, good to see you, my friend. I did not see you in LA, did I? And that sucks. So next time I go up there for a show, we need to meet up for a fist bump at least. Matrona, number 2, good to see you. JL is here. Zane dropping in $2 for me. Thanks, my friend. To me, Raw was dragging and it sucked. I was thinking Raw would. As a matter of fact, I kind of thought that they weren't doing a whole lot of wrestling. First 2 hours, there was only 3 matches, but they weren't doing a whole lot of BS either. I think they were stalling, dragging some segments out a little bit, maybe making a couple of these matches longer than, they should have been. But when you think about how they managed the situation, I'm glad that it was Triple H managing this situation and not Vince McMahon. At least that's what we think. Vince was not in Seattle tonight, according to the reports. So I'm basically kind of judging the show based on what they dealt with. This show by itself, if the whole locker room would have been there, I would have been wondering what the hell they were doing. But being able to manage a situation like that without making it that noticeable to the audience at home, I thought they did a pretty decent job of. But yeah, the show wasn't, going to go down as the greatest Raw of all time. And I'll tell you what, man, that Trish heel turn, how obvious did they make it? It was just so bad. Trish and Becky are pros. They should be way more subtle about the heel turn, even if the fans can sniff it out. The way they were awkwardly standing there hugging after the loss, it's like, can you be more fucking obvious, So I didn't like that. And I thought the Trish turn could have been done a lot better, but I still think the Trish turn could result in some pretty fun and interesting stories, especially if we get that Trish and Becky match, which at the very least is going to be a match, might even be a whole program since Trish is already turned. I don't think you can drag this match out to SummerSlam unless the blow-off is at SummerSlam. So perhaps we could get a whole summer of Becky and Trish, and Lita is going to have to factor into that as well. But we'll talk about that in a minute. James has joined the family. What's up, my friend? Glad you are with us now. Welcome to the family. Great little crew we have here, man. Glad you joined up. Appreciate that, James. Stephen Harris is here as well. Victor Cologne in the house. So is Michael Cuomo. Nice to see you. Get all them family members in. Dave Sims is here. We've got Sonic Plays. Vashstar, when did I get you? I think I did. Yeah, for real. I can't say I had Trish turning heel on my 2023 bingo card to start the year. Yeah, definitely not. But as soon as Trish and Lita kind of came back into the fold, there was rumors that they were going to do some interesting storyline twist. And we have seen Charlotte work with Trish before. Maybe Becky wanted to get that chance too, to see if she can do better than Charlotte did. But that Charlotte-Trish match was fantastic. And if we're going to get a Trish and Becky match, I think that match has potential to be equally as good. So we'll see how they do that. I don't know how that's all going to work out. We'll talk about it when we get to the match here. But with Lita involved, that makes me wonder too, because, Lita and Trish are both retired, semi part-time besties. With all of this history and this friendship, why are they going to, at least in kayfabe, undo that for a storyline, unless the two of them got together and decided they want to have one more match together just for fun before they officially stay out of the ring forever. Maybe it's something the two of them want to do. A lot of people are thinking that it was Trish that attacked Lita tonight on Raw, but it might turn out that Lita was in on this. We don't know yet. Hey, at least they're trying to do something interesting. We'll see if it actually turns out to be interesting. Latrey White, good to see you. Glad you're here as well. I think that does it for the shout-outs, the super chats, and the pleasantries. I won't waste too much of your time tonight because it is Monday, and it's not like this Monday Night Raw had very big implications on the future. Just one Backlash challenge, and I'm actually surprised. I kind of thought that Cody and Brock would be saved for Saudi Arabia. It still can. Brock is scheduled for next week's Raw to answer Cody's challenge. I suppose maybe Brock can stall, and they do it at Crown Jewel. I just think that Saudi money was such a big deal, right? They always want the big names. They want a big match. They want feature matches. WWE's done some crazy things in Saudi Arabia. It just feels like Cody Brock is a Saudi match. I would love to be wrong. I'd much rather it take place in Puerto Rico, and I'm kind of hoping it does. Maybe with the Bad Bunny involvement, this is a show that WWE wants a lot of eyeballs on, or is expecting maybe some extra eyeballs on. So maybe having Brock and Cody on Backlash is better than Saudi Arabia, and that's actually what I'm pulling for. I just was kind of under the assumption, never assume, as one of my best and greatest mentors and bosses always told me, never assume. I was under the assumption that would be a Crown Jewel match, but my assumption might be wrong. So we will find out. Let's get into some wrestling news. We've got to talk about the WWE draft. Last Friday on SmackDown, it was announced prior to the show that Triple H was going to be on SmackDown to address the WWE Universe. This is right in the middle of the shitstorm of bad publicity and very angry fans after last week's Monday Night Raw, 1 week ago, the night after WrestleMania, when Brock turned on Cody. And there was a lot of reported and rumored rewrites of the show. Vince was there. The sale had just been announced that morning, and Vince kind of was vague about his creative role when asked that question. You combine that with the show we saw, then you combine that with the reports of talent being unhappy, some talent being under the assumption that Vince McMahon is back, and Raw running as it did in a very similar vibe to when Vince was there and in control. You combine that with yet another shitty Raw after Mania. Raw shows that used to be very, very heavily anticipated are now pretty much a shell of themselves and a joke. That didn't change on Monday, so it was another, flat Raw after Mania again. Even though they did the big Brock and Cody angle, when you're coming off the heels of a disappointing main event on night 2, then the sale, then all the rumblings about Vince, then all of the rumors of the rewrites, and then some of the shit they gave us on Monday night, it was pissing fans off. There were Fire Vince hashtags, which make no sense. And a lot of people were like, go to SmackDown and sabotage it. And I'm like, we got to find a different way, because I think fans sabotaging shows are just going to have to happen organically. You're never going to be able to plan to do that. Hey, let's get everybody going to the show to sabotage it. That's not what the majority of wrestling fans do. It's going to have to be something in the arena that night that happens and snowballs and turns into a big problem for WWE, like we've seen in the past. All the yes chants and the Daniel Bryan chants, when the fans want to convey a message to WWE, they do a pretty good job of doing that when they want to. But you got to just let it happen. You can't have a hashtag or say, go to SmackDown and shit on the show. What, you hear what you're saying? You're saying, go pay WWE a bunch of money just so you can go and troll them. That's a lot of people just don't think that way. So I didn't think any of that was going to work. It was going to have to be online backlash. It was going to have to be, the future new owners, because this is a transition and a deal that's going to take a long time to finalize, probably several months here. Vince's involvement and seeing the negative effect it can have on, the audience reaction and even the ratings is what's going to get Vince out. But the problem is the night after WrestleMania, you're always going to draw a big number. And people are pointing to that. Raw after Mania and SmackDown on Friday did crazy numbers. That's going to make Vince think that it's a win for him and that him being there is the result of this. Even Vince, as crazy and self-centered as he is, I would think understands by this point, as many WrestleManias as they put on, that usually the night after WrestleMania is going to pull a big number no matter what. You could have cows fucking out there, and they're going to have 2.5 million people watching that show. Generally, I would think, because it's right after WrestleMania, and a lot of people who didn't watch WrestleMania want to tune into Raw, see what the fuck happened. So you're always going to draw big numbers on that night. So I think if Vince was going to stick around creatively, that's going to be something that we're just going to have to deal with and be patient and know that if Vince is insistent, no matter how bad the backlash is, no matter how horrifically it screws up the backstage morale, all of that, if he still insists on sitting his wrinkly pencil mustache butt in that chair at Gorilla, he has to know that that's going to have a negative effect on everything. And eventually, it might take a few weeks, but you're going to have unhappy talent. You could have some talent walkouts. And when Vince gets back to his old crazy, I want to rewrite the show 5 minutes before it starts ways, that is going to affect the fans and the ratings kind of in time. So I was kind of worried that we might just have to sit here and wait for them to step on their own dick again, because that's what they always do. And that's going to be what might remove Vince from that. But I thought it would be a process, an entire process to get rid of this guy. And, Vince cannot live forever. And I just can't imagine in Vince's mind, him thinking that he's capable of running creative until he's 85, 87, 90 years old. It's just insane. So he was not at SmackDown on Friday. He was not at Raw tonight. That's a little bit of a relief, because I really don't give a shit what Vince McMahon does or where he is, as long as he's not wherever WWE is putting on a show. As long as he's not sitting at gorilla position for any TV or any PLEs, I don't really give a shit what the old man does. I don't care if he's involved behind the scenes. These are things that are out of our hands from a wrestling fan perspective. We can't do anything about Vince doing the dirty shit behind the scenes that he does. If he insists on being involved or being involved in process or being a chairman of the board or any of that stuff, that's all back there. Let him do it. We can't affect that, or we can't, determine any of that. But what Vince can do is really, really screw up the creative that we see on TV and the product that's presented to their audience, which is us. So that's how Vince can directly affect us, the consumer, the fan. So I want his ass out of WWE buildings when they're putting on a show. So he's not there making a mess of everything. Now, if he's still remotely involved, he probably will be. Triple H may have to run shit by him and get it approved over the phone. That's fine, but at least Vince isn't there in the thick of things, and WWE can at least present the image that Vince isn't involved in creative, even though we probably all know behind the scenes he does have a little bit of input and probably always has since he's left. But now with his new position in the company, and that's another thing we haven't really talked about with the WWE sale, and that sort of effect that it's going to have in months coming up here at the end of the year. I mean, it might even take till late in the year to even get that deal finalized. And who knows, there could be a lot that could change. The deal could even fall through for all we know. But if everything goes through as planned, without reading too much into it, because I haven't really read all of the details, but Vince is going to lose some voting power, I believe, once it's all done. So how much actual control he will have, it's going to have to be a wait and see thing, because we really just don't know. It no longer is just easy to say, oh, it's Vince McMahon, he can do whatever he wants. Not anymore, because they have sold to Endeavor. It's not the same thing anymore. So once that deal is finalized, we'll see how that changes moving forward. But Triple H being in control, at least that's what they're telling us. I don't believe anything Nick Khan ever says or Vince McMahon says. Triple H came out on Monday Night Raw last week and said WWE is going nowhere. That can be taken two ways, Mr. Helmsley. But he tried to reiterate to the fans that the sale that we read about isn't going to affect anything. It's still going to be the same WWE that we've all grown to love. It's still going to be the same stars, the same pay-per-views, the same everything. That's fine. But when you say that at the very same time of the rumors and reports of Vince McMahon being back and having some sort of creative input, and the show you then give us, it doesn't really instill a whole lot of confidence in us. So then when they make the announcement that Triple H is going to go out there on SmackDown, these empty promos, what's he going to do? Come out there and say, oh, this is the WWE universe and we're then and together and forever, or whatever the fuck that stupid saying is. That's all he's going to say. He's going to say absolutely nothing. So when they announced him for SmackDown, I was like, if he comes out there and says nothing again, that's going to be ridiculous. That's going to be absolutely ridiculous if he just goes out there and says, we're all in this together or something stupid, and then leaves. So at least Triple H did have a purpose for coming out on SmackDown. He announced the WWE draft. And the draft, he didn't put a date on it unless they've announced one in the last few days. I haven't seen one, but he just says it's coming up in a few weeks. He might have said 3 weeks or a few weeks. I can't remember. But it's coming up in just a few weeks. That might be probably after Backlash, but who the hell knows? You got King and Queen of the Ring coming up too, so I don't know when they want to actually plan to do this. But the WWE draft is coming, and he says that, they're going to shake things up a bit, and everybody is going to be eligible for the draft. Anybody can move around. So it's yet another reset for WWE. They get to actually sit and think about this now, and it'll be interesting to see how Triple H manages a draft, because this will be the first draft under Triple H. The drafts in recent years have been shit. I have no interest in a draft because they're stupid. Back in the day, it was kind of cool. Like in 02, 03, they would have the wheel and they'd pull out names, or they'd have picks. They did a lot of different things where the GMs would come out there and announce their picks. And then they got so lazy with it, so incredibly uninspired and lazy, that they just made a revolving graphic on the Tron, and all the superstars would flash and it would just stop on one. And nope, that's who's getting drafted now. It has no feeling of spontaneity at all. Doesn't seem like it's an actual draft, which we know it's a bullshit kayfabe draft anyway, but they're not even trying. They're basically just telling you via the Titantron, here's all the decisions we made behind the scenes when you were eating lunch today. That's it. So I hope, and plus on top of that, once the draft is done, it doesn't matter. Everybody's on both shows. You got a Raw star is the SmackDown Women's Champion right now. You've got double champions that can be on both shows. People are just showing up everywhere. Ray was on Raw tonight after being moved to SmackDown as a favor by Triple H last year, right? When he wanted to get away from Dominic. Didn't Triple H agree to move him to SmackDown to get away from him? Ray wrestled on Raw tonight. None of this shit makes any sense. So if they're going to do a draft and they really want to try to keep the brands separate, at least try your best to do that. And it'll be interesting to see how Triple H handles that. And because in a lot of drafts too, we've always seen, it seems like there's no thought put into these. draft picks at all. They're just moving people around for S&Gs, man. And Triple H hopefully will have a little bit more thought. It'll be good for this person to go here. We can do this with them, or have some sort of an idea what you want to do and make an actual point to moving these people around. And there's a couple of things that I really hope get accomplished in the draft. Number one, clean up your title situation. Okay, so if you got Rhea on Raw, you need to draft her to SmackDown or something. They probably just will. Rhea Ripley, oh, what a shock. She's got the blue belt. She needs to be on the blue brand. And separate her and Bianca out. And plus that will put, hopefully, the entire crew of Judgment Day. I don't know if they're going to be drafted as a group or individually, because these rules are never set in stone either. So I think Judgment Day will move to SmackDown probably. I really hope they figure something out with the tag team titles. If they're going to do any sort of belt presentation or new belt unveiling for the world title, tag team titles, these rumors that we've been hearing, that might be a good time to do it. Inform Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn that we now have 2 sets of tag team titles, or present them with unified tag team titles. I'd be perfectly fine with 1 set of tag team champions floating between both shows. We do not need to. So you could do that, or you could separate the belts out again, whatever. Same thing with Roman Reigns. Give him 1 belt that represents both belts, or split the titles. One of those 2 things. At this point, I don't even give a shit. Just do one or the other. Please, I'm begging you, Triple H. So I hope that gets accomplished. Also, you have to wonder if they don't do that. I wonder if one of the main reasons and motivations for even holding a WWE draft is to split up the Street Profits without having to turn one of them heel. Because when we've all been talking about Montez's upcoming singles push, which we know he's going to get, we've always wondered how they were going to get there. And I've pitched several different ideas for, Montez turning on Dawkins or vice versa. But I think Dawkins is way too talented. He's not Tucker. He's way better than that. No offense to Tucker, but, I would hate to see Dawkins, who's been working really hard, has good matches, knows what he's doing. He's a good talent. I would hate to see him be Janetti'd, you know what I mean? All in favor of Montez. So, this way, they did it with the Dudley Boys years ago, and it sucked because they made Deacon Devon, or whatever the fuck that was, Reverend Devon. So this way, if you split them up, you don't have to do a turn. You don't have to turn Montez heel, because I think at first, Montez should probably just be a babyface version of one half of the Street Profit. Basically just exactly who he is now. Maybe keep the song, keep the Street Profit song. He'll probably get new music eventually, but just have him come out there with the solo cup and all that, because all that's very marketable, very entertaining. He's loaded with charisma. You can probably ride on that just for a little while until he gets his feet wet as a singles. And then you turn him into the cocky, arrogant, multi-million-dollar star athlete prick. And I think he will be very good at that, especially if, I don't know, maybe Bianca does it at the same time. The Bianca and Montez could be, counterparts to Becky and Seth. They're kind of like that. They're outlandish and they're over the top with their gear, and, they're big stars, but they've been doing it primarily as baby faces. Sometimes one's heel, one's face. But if you did something similar with Montez and Bianca in the future, they'd look like a star-ass couple, man, coming out there, a couple of championship belts. Montez is US or IC, and Bianca's got her title that she's held for 6.5 years, and they're bragging everybody how great and beautiful and rich and powerful they are. That could be a great act, especially with Montez. But I think it'll take a while to get there. So the draft might be the beginning of what could be a very successful singles career for Montez. But don't sleep on Dawkins either, because he's very talented. And the draft implies to me, anyway, that they will not be splitting up. There won't be a heel turn. They will be split up in the draft, and they'll remain friends until inevitably you probably do that match. But it might give them more of an equal shot to get over, and give Dawkins an opportunity on his own, completely separate from Montez, to get over as well. So I hope that they do that with the Street Profits, and we'll see if that's the right decision or not. Other than that, I don't really know the point of the WWE draft, because you can move anybody already anytime you want. You don't need the draft to shuffle talent around. You can just move them there. At this point, we don't need an explanation. It's okay, WWE. We know your draft and your brand split is a crock of shit. It always has been. You don't need to explain to us anymore why you move people. I don't care. You don't have to explain it, because you've never explained it, and the explanations you have given have never made any sense. So if you want to move people around, just fucking do it, and fuck the whole draft. Just tell us one week, hey, this dude's on SmackDown now. Get over it, fans. honestly, that's all we need. That's all we need at this point because everything else they do is such a joke. So we'll see if the draft means anything at all because I think in the last few drafts, like what, the very next week, they've undone what they did in the draft, like putting somebody else on Raw or SmackDown. So it's always a mess and the draft annoys me. So this one will probably be no different unless they throw something special at us. And you would think with a few weeks to plan for this, that they should at least be able to come up with something somewhat compelling. So do your best, WWE. Give us a decent draft this time around. And whatever you do, stick with it, dumbasses. Big news today out of WWE headquarters as well. Logan Paul flew all the way to Connecticut to sign his brand new WWE contract. And it was the craziest thing. He posed for a picture with Triple H, and Logan Paul, he just does not change at all. Like him and Triple H just maintain their appearances 24/7 because they took a picture. And if you would have looked at the picture that Logan signed or he took when he signed his first WWE contract, they were almost the same picture. They had the same smile on their face. It was almost as if they photoshopped it or something, but we know that didn't happen because that would be silly. Logan Paul was wearing a completely different color jacket. So that disproves the Photoshop. But it was kind of eerie how the two photos looked very, very much alike. And you would just think after a long flight to Connecticut that Logan Paul would not look that bright and chipper, but he did. So props to him for re-signing his WWE deal. We don't know how long the deal is for, probably just another handful of matches. And you can't watch Logan Paul have the matches that he's had and not expect WWE to try to keep him around and use him, So him being re-signed is not surprising. And that dude might even have a better contract than Brock. And that's saying something. So Logan is going to be here and he's going to be here for a while. Like I said, we still don't know any of the true future of Vince McMahon. It sounds like he's staying away now. And I think as fans, that's the best we can hope for. There's a lot to be worked out still with the finalization of the sale and WWE, being incorporated into Endeavor and this new publicly traded company that they're going to form, merging with the UFC and all the percentages and the voting power and how all of that is divided up and what happens and who does what and all that type of stuff. And it still remains to be seen how well WWE does under the Endeavor umbrella. Could you have some crossover promotion now? I think you can. I don't think you're going to have any WWE wrestlers getting into the octagon or anything like that, but I definitely think you could see some corner men here and there. You're going to see UFC ads on WWE shows, WWE ads on UFC shows, maybe some cross promotions, commercials and ads that feature both. But I really can't see, a WWE wrestler at this point. Let's just chuck Liv Morgan in the octagon. No, we're not going to be doing that. So it's all going to be really, really interesting. We're entering into an era that none of us are familiar with. This is uncharted territory. And, for me, somebody like me who started watching wrestling when Vince Sr. was still alive and in charge, this is the first time in my life I'm going to be watching a McMahon, a WWE that's not, owned by a McMahon. Or at least controlling ownership isn't from a McMahon. And we don't know what the future holds. We don't even know what the point of Shane's appearance at WrestleMania was when he showed up there and blew out his quad. What would that have meant had he not gotten injured? Was he going to be back, or was that just a one-off? He's another guy. He's another McMahon back. So now it's like Shane's back, Triple H is back, Vince is back, but no Stephanie. Other times it's been Stephanie, Triple H, and Vince, and no Shane. Other times it's been Shane, Stephanie, and Triple H, and no Vince. They can't make up their mind who wants to be there. It's all confusing. It's all a mess right now. And I've kind of adopted let's just chill and see what the hell's going to happen because it's all over the place. But it's certainly been an interesting couple of weeks. I did not do a Winged Eagle podcast this past Saturday, so I didn't have a chance to talk about any of this stuff yet. I talked a little bit about it in the WrestleMania weekend review, but I haven't really discussed with you guys the WWE sale because it's still just a little bit mind-blowing, and I don't even think if my brain is fully processed this news because the news was given to us after one of the craziest weekends, wrestling weekends of my life, and one of the most debated wrestling finishes of all time on night 2, and then to punch us in the face with that WWE sale. I haven't even really truly been able to wrap my head quite around it yet. I'm just kind of happy that at least we have an announcement. At least we now know there's, even though there's still a shitload of uncertainty, there's a little less uncertainty than before because at least we now know who's going to own WWE. And I don't think I don't know if necessarily Endeavor was the best case scenario, but I don't think it was the worst case scenario. So, in terms of how I feel about it, it's going to be weird no matter who WWE sold to. But I'm a lot less uncomfortable with this sale, knowing how well UFC has flourished under the Endeavor umbrella from a business standpoint. But in terms of what it's going to mean for WWE creatively, we've heard of things like hiring freezes. This could put Tony Khan in an excellent position for future contract negotiations. You would think, in theory, might not be right about this, but in theory, I would think that Tony Khan is now in a position to outbid WWE on every single wrestler if he so chooses. We've heard stories, a couple of rumors and rumblings this week about Drew McIntyre maybe letting his contract expire to see what kind of deal he can get. That's smart. That's what I would do, because now WWE wants to keep you around and they're going to offer you a deal. Now Tony Khan has an option to pay you more money to come in and work over there. So when it comes to big time free agents or contracts that are up, I think there's a few people that WWE still is going to have a policy of do not let them go, pay them whatever it takes, but some other talent, it might not get that luxury. And WWE now might have a little bit more of a cap on them in terms of the money they can throw around to entice talent and to outbid other organizations, where Tony Khan can just kind of make that decision himself. Oh, what? You want an extra million? Okay. Is all 20s okay? Here you go. So we'll see. It could make the wrestling landscape interesting in upcoming years. And I think that's always the best for fans. But WWE is going to be a powerhouse now, regardless. They already were. It's really disgusting to see, with just regular humans, struggling to make ends meet, inflation, and, all the problems with the economy. All of these corporations, all of them, every time they have one of these earnings reports, it's the most profits we've ever had. It's the most profits we've ever had. It's the most profits we ever had. So WWE is no different. They're going to, probably only do better with this sale, but it could make the immediate future a little bit interesting as they move into this transition and how the transition is completed. And 1 year from now, when we go to WrestleMania 40, it's going to be interesting to see where the wrestling business sits. So there's some thoughts there on the sale, the draft, and Vince McMahon. I haven't been to the chat in a while. Let me go over here, make sure you guys are all behaving yourselves. Zach, good to see you, buddy. Thank you for the $5. What's up, my friend? Do you still think Cody is the guy to dethrone Roman? If so, when does it happen? Talked a lot about that last week. It could happen anywhere at this point. I think now, obviously, Brock is in front of Cody. I feel like Cody's going to beat Brock. I don't think Brock's going to beat Cody. I think that's what the whole point of this is just to keep Cody strong. He's going to beat a megastar like Brock. Not too many people have been able to beat Brock like that. Seth is really the only one. So if Cody's able to beat Brock and that somehow leads to him getting another shot, I do like the idea. Again, nothing that I suggest here, I don't believe is going to be bigger or better than what he could have done at WrestleMania. But I do kind of like the idea of perhaps him winning the Money in the Bank. And then I haven't confirmed this either with my own research, but apparently there's a WWE show at MSG coming up this summer. Maybe, I think, possibly. So what if Cody wins the Money in the Bank and calls his shot? I want another shot at Roman Reigns in Madison Square Garden, in the very same building. I want to win the title in the same building, in the same ring where my dad failed to win it. And that could be a good story too. But, WrestleMania, Zach, you were there. You were there. Think about that night. Had Cody gotten the 1, 2, 3, had Solo not hit him with the spike, Cody hit the 3 crossroads, he pinned him, we'd still be jizzing her. I'd still have an erection. It would have been so amazing. Sorry if that's a little too graphic for some of you. But it's true. It would have been great. Would have been great. JJ Leg, good to see you. He says May 8th is the rumored date of that draft. That's good to know. Victor Cologne gifted 1 Good Mike Work Commentaries membership. What up, man? That's very nice. Gifted it to Vash. Right on. You guys are so cool for doing that. Very awesome. Zane, 2 more bucks from you, dude. I sent you a tweet earlier today, maybe an idea. Oh, okay, I will look at that. I'm behind on DMs too, so I'll look at that tonight. Nice. Zach has gifted a membership as well. Y'all just gifting things out. Nice. Hooking up Sonic with a membership. That's so nice. You guys all see each other every week in the chat. Even Elizabeth remembers names now. Like if she happens to be listening, she might be listening right now, or if she's listening to me at another time, or if she's in another room watching the stream or something, she sometimes asks about some of you, like, who do you think this is? Or what do you think he looks like or whatever. So I'm glad you guys are doing that. Very cool. That's why we like our community here. MSG show is a SmackDown in July. Thank you for that, Victor. So that could work. On SmackDown on Friday night on Fox. I mean, maybe the only thing better than belting up Cody in front of 80,000 people at WrestleMania is to belt up Cody in front of millions of eyeballs on national television in WWE's living room. I'm into that. If that's what they do, that is the only thing I think personally that would satisfy me enough to, and it still might not even fully satisfy me, but satisfy me enough for Cody to lose at WrestleMania. Because if they just do the rematch at SummerSlam, that's not as fun. Like, he could have the moment at SummerSlam, but again, all you're doing is just trying to make the moment that you missed out on WrestleMania. I don't think the SummerSlam moment will be any better than it would have been in LA. SummerSlam sounds like it's going to be pretty awesome in Detroit. But, you know, just the way that building was so primed and ready for Cody, I just don't understand how or see how you can top that. But a Money in the Bank and a win on national TV and Madison Square Garden might be the way to go. That's what I'd do. But again, that would put Cody as the Money in the Bank winner. So now he's a Royal Rumble winner and the Money in the Bank winner. It's going to get to that point. Well, they keep giving Cody opportunities, and it's, ugh. I can already hear them. Can't you hear them? Can't you already hear them? It's going to happen. You watch. Yeah, I did see that Vicki Guerrero deleted her Twitter and Instagram. And speaking of our friend Vicki Guerrero, oh my God, what a horrible situation. Pretty sad. I don't know how to describe this in any other way other than sad and a little bit fucked up. But I don't have any screenshots of any tweets. I don't have screenshots of Vicki's long Instagram post. You guys sent them to me, but I don't have them saved here because there's no sense at this point, since it's about a week old, and rehashing and rereading all of this. But here's the gist of what's going on in case you don't know. Vicki Guerrero's daughter, her youngest daughter, Sherilyn Guerrero, who is Vicki and Eddie Guerrero's youngest daughter, posted a viral TikTok video last week accusing Vicki's now husband, Chris, of sexual assault. She says this assault took place in early 2020, right before the pandemic, on a cruise. I was on a cruise in early 2020, right before the pandemic, and Vicki Guerrero and Sherilyn and her husband were on that too. That's the same fucking cruise, man. This happened at the Jericho cruise. I saw Vicki and her husband gambling a couple of times. We saw them around the boat a lot that weekend. And according to Sherilyn, this is where the assault took place. Vicki's husband groped her or whatever. And she explained the whole thing on TikTok, to which Vicki Guerrero then responded in a post that can only be described as, I guess, just sad and pathetic that a mother would speak this way about their child. And went on to sling a whole lot of dirt on Sherilyn as well, talk about all the problems that she's had and all of the money that her and her husband have given her, and how they've helped her out, how they've wanted to go to therapy and work out their problems, but she's been difficult to talk to and just difficult to communicate with. And she's been, very, very difficult ever since she's been 12 years old. I don't know how old she was when Eddie died, but that's probably about the age she was. So I think if my dad died at that age and something that traumatic happened to me, you might have some struggles with that in life as you grow older and get older and enter into adulthood and things like that. So she airs out a bunch of laundry, really putting down her daughter, even at the end of the post, says something like, "You and I are no longer related," and just laid out all of her problems that she's had with money, or maybe with drugs or personal life issues. And during all of this, not once did she ever deny anything that Sherilyn said. As a matter of fact, she kind of admitted it when she said, "You never tried to talk to Chris. You had no problem accepting the cars that he bought for you. You had no problem with that." Basically saying, yeah, he might have done that to you, but you were okay with the cars. I don't even know how to respond to that. In what universe is this normal human behavior between a parent and a kid? And it's just mind blowing, how families can really be ripped apart. This isn't how a mother and daughter talks to each other. This is how two people who hate each other talk about each other. And the fact that Vicki seems to have no sympathy whatsoever for her daughter and what her husband did is so fucked up. Now, there's another sister here, Shaw Guerrero, who also made a statement about this. And apparently she's no longer in contact with her sister either, but she did back up the claims and said, yes, it actually did. It absolutely did happen. It was not rape, but it was groping or unwanted or unnecessary touching or whatever that was. So everybody's acknowledged that it's happened. And for Vicki Guerrero to be that harsh, she rightfully so got a lot of backlash from fans. Oh my God, they drug her through the mud. Ironically, she was on her way to a cruise right when this was all breaking. So I hope her cruise is completely ruined because I believe she was on her way, she said, on a 2-week cruise. Well, I hope this is keeping you up all fucking night long, Vicki, because my God, how can you even say those things to your daughter? And how can you take your husband's side after something like that, after this disgusting pervert gropes your daughter and sexually assaults your daughter, and your daughter is the one you're mad at? Like, this is just messed up to beyond belief. I can't imagine anybody staying with their spouse or being okay with that under any circumstances, regardless if you're on good terms with your daughter or not. What sucks is this is really none of our business. This is serious family issues that they have. I'm glad Eddie isn't alive to see this. Who knows if he would have stayed alive, if him and Vicki would have even stayed together. They seem to be in a pretty good place. At the time of his death, he was clean, he was happy and all of that. So hopefully, everything would have been fine. But I'm glad Eddie isn't around here to see this, because this is horribly sad. And as wrestling fans, we feel like we have, we're going to have a care and a love for Eddie's daughters because they're Eddie's daughters. Now, Chavo Guerrero has also come out to support Sherilyn as well. Chavo was also on that cruise. He was there doing something. Saw him a couple of times. I forget. Devlin, if you're here, remind me what Chavo was doing. But we saw him around on the Jericho cruise as well. And he was there. And apparently he's standing by his cousin, because Sherilyn would be his cousin if Eddie was his uncle. So it doesn't sound like Vicki and Chavo are on very good terms either. And I can understand that, especially how Chavo must feel about her dirtbag husband. Is pretty crazy. And I just can't believe, like, this guy has got to know the Guerreros run deep, man. If they find out that one of a female Guerrero family member was sexually assaulted, I'd be looking over my fucking shoulder, man. So that whole situation is ugly. It sucks. I feel terrible for everybody involved. It does not sound like, it sounds for real that Sherilyn has some problems. She's got some issues, and I don't even think that's really debated. But the fact that you would throw these things in her face after an experience like that, and somehow be able to explain away or justify your husband doing that is just something that I can't even fully process how a human can think that way. So sounds like this family has got some deep, deep, deep turmoil. I hope as everybody grows, apparently Sherilyn is 27 years old, 24, 27, I forget. Hopefully, as Vicki gets older and these kids grow up even further, hopefully this can all be worked out and they can come back together. But things are going to have to change. I don't see how anything can be salvaged now as things sit. It sucks that we had to see all of this. It sucks that all of this laundry had to be, thrown out there for us all to view. And it's pretty messed up. Vicki Guerrero, by the way, has shut down all of her social media because she's probably received a flurry of comments and horrible messages and everybody telling her she sucks and is a piece of shit and to fuck off. AEW has removed her from their alumni page on their website as well. And I do think Vicki has come out and said that she did plan to leave the company and was going to leave the company when her contract is up in a couple of months, whenever that is. I think this summer sometime. So she was already going to go, but AEW went ahead and took the steps of just removing her altogether. They probably want to distance themselves as much as possible from her. And it sucks that all this happened too. It sucks that Vicki is such a piece of shit, because before WrestleMania, I was pitching her to be sitting next to Dominic in a lowrider as he came out to the ring at WrestleMania. Think of the heat. Hell, think of the heat now, but you would never bring this situation into a wrestling storyline. But that whole situation is pretty sad and pretty messed up. And I just hope that everybody finds peace, at some point, because our love and affection for Eddie Guerrero, kind of makes you default protective of his kids, sort of as a fan. There's only so much we can do. We can't physically protect them, but if we see Vicki Guerrero taking a big fat shit on her daughter's head, then we want to say something about it. And props to everybody that told her to fuck the fuck off. So Vicki, you suck, man. You suck. Speaking of her former employer, AEW has announced, but I still have not even seen Dynamite. I've only seen a couple of clips. I saw FTR win the tag team championships, and I saw Tony Khan's announcement. Other than that, I still have not really taken a look at Dynamite from this past week. I don't know if I will even get to take a look at it, but there was a big announcement from Tony Khan. He had announced earlier on in the week that he had a big announcement on Wednesday, and I'm like, the announcement better not suck, because WWE is dominating the wrestling headlines right now with a great WrestleMania that could have been spectacular had they done the right thing on night 2. Then the WWE sale, then Vince McMahon, then Cody and Brock, and all this stuff going on. It's going to be hard to grab anybody's attention away from all of that. So whatever Tony had to say better be a big deal. And one thing that I was really hoping it wouldn't be is that they were signing Bill Goldberg. Luckily, it was not that. Tony Khan announced that AEW is bringing back All In. Or actually, All In wasn't even an AEW show, was it? So they are going to run All In Wembley Stadium, home of SummerSlam 1992. 80-something thousand people packed that gigantic stadium. They play soccer there, right? Still there. And that's a big venue. That's a big deal. They're going to run that on August 27th. And apparently they're still going to run All Out. All Out will still happen on Labor Day weekend, right? That's the plan. So All Out will happen like the week before, and then they're going to turn around, or All In will happen the week before, and then turn around a week later and do All Out. I think that's how it goes. And that's crazy that that's what the schedule is going to be, but I think that's what they're doing. Now, we all know that Wembley Stadium can seat about 90,000 people. If you max it out, you might even be able to squeeze 100,000 in there. And so that sparked a lot of debate, of course, of what kind of house they're going to draw. But the fact that they're going to run a venue like that, I think is really interesting, because UK fans are great and UK fans will turn out, and UK fans don't have the luxury of having shows so frequently like we do. If you live here in the United States and you're anywhere near a major city, WWE comes through your area a couple times a year, and AEW probably gets pretty close as well. Where over there, some of the best fans in the world are, and when WWE ever runs shows or tours over there or pay-per-views, not only is it a sellout, but the fans are extremely enthusiastic. And I love those shows, because you never hear we're spoiled here in the States, and you can have a lot of dead crowds. Just go to fucking Corpus Christi if you want to see a dead Raw crowd, where it ain't like that in London or Manchester or any of those cities, So I think that this is going to be great. I'm really interested to see what the house is. Of course, everybody who's got any sort of tribal dipshitty opinions about anything are just being complete cheese dicks about this attendance stuff online. It's just annoying as hell. So everybody's debating, and you got some people so damn jaded that they're trying to tell people that AEW is going to pull 15,000. 15,000. That's 1/3 of the amount of subscribers we have on this channel. Are you fucking kidding me? They are going to draw away. They're going to sell 15,000 tickets in the first 8 seconds of this thing. So are they going to pack 100,000 people in there? Probably not. And for the people that say, well, if AEW is so great, they should. I don't even think WWE would put 100,000 people in there unless they ran WrestleMania. And AEW, you have to remember, is ratings wise is only half the size of WWE, and overall size wise, they're smaller than that. So how many fans can they really draw there? I believe that anybody who's close to a hardcore wrestling fan in the UK is going to go to the show. I think even if there's dipshits over there that hate them for some reason, they'll probably pay their money and go to the show too, just so they can be there. And I think it's going to be a great visual. If they can book a big card, if they can promise a big surprise or have some sort of an attraction on there to draw people in, if you're going to bring CM Punk back, if he figures anything out, it does not look as of a couple of weeks ago that that's anywhere near close to happening. But if it is close to happening and they can work it out, you book that around CM Punk's return, try to sell tickets that way. I'm curious to see what they draw. I don't want to give any idea of a number out here because I don't know, but I think they're looking at a minimum of 50,000 people. I think they'll pull 50,000 people. They've got months here to promote this. They can sell tickets. They can give tickets away. They can heavily paper this thing. Nothing wrong with that. WWE does the same damn thing whenever they're trying to fill up tickets. I'm sure at WrestleMania 32, plenty of fans got their seats for free. So they try to cram as many people as they can, book a good card. It's going to be in the summertime, so, the weather should be good. And I think that's huge news for them. This is a big step. This is a stadium show. We've seen them pull houses. They've sold out, United Center in 2.5 minutes. They've packed out Arthur Ashe. They've sold out plenty of arenas, and they've packed some big venues here, or like normal size arenas that WWE would run. But they've never attempted anything like this. And I think they're picking the best part of the country to do it in, because over there, fans don't get to go to shows all the time, every week, all the time. So they're a little bit more rare there. Now, WWE is coming to town the previous month for Money in the Bank, but that's just at the O2. This is Wembley, completely different thing. And I'm excited for this, and I think it's a big deal for them. And if it's a success, that could mean a return, an annual thing. Maybe All In becomes their WrestleMania. Who knows? But I think that's a pretty awesome deal. So I'm curious to see how many tickets they're going to sell for this and what the card is going to look like, because that should start coming together in the next couple of months. We should start having our matches and our feuds and our angles for the summer, and you should get somewhat of an idea of what they're going to do at Wembley Stadium. I think if you're going to have MJF drop the title, I'd save it for Wembley. You could have Maxwell drop it at Wembley, win it back at All Out, something like that. But having MJF drop the belt at Wembley is probably something I would think about doing if I'm Tony Khan. And it would be really cool. Max Pokebra mentioning the SummerSlam 1992 IC title match. I know that Davey Boy Smith Jr., I think he signed to MLW, or is he signed to Impact? I forgot where he's at. It would be really cool if AEW could find a way to get him on the card somehow, or have an appearance. They've had so many working agreements with everybody. I don't think it would be hard to say, hey, can we use Davey Boy for Wembley so he can tribute his dad? And I can't see any promoter saying no to that. So that would be really cool if they could incorporate him somewhere on the show, maybe just in an appearance or something. Might be fun. And thank you for that $5. Max actually says a TNT title match should be the main event, like the IC in SummerSlam 1992. That would be a nice nod, but it's a nod to another company. But yeah, I think that TNT title is a strong enough title in the company to main event a pay-per-view. Totally. Because they've had some great TNT champions and matches. My God, let's go backwards on the super chats. Rarely even, you got a couple coming in. Thank you for the $5 earlier. It was real. I was really excited when Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae came back. I thought big things were in store for them, but WWE has done nothing with them. You're right. They haven't done anything with them. And I don't know what the plans for them are. Now, I think the draft is going to help, because after that, everybody will be separated. They will be on whatever show they're going to be on, and then they can book from there. But right now, they are kind of in limbo. You're right. And then you have 5 more earlier on as well. What a promo by Cody. Remember when he first came in and everyone said he had no charisma? Yeah, Cody has completely done a 180 with me. I've always been a Cody fan, but Cody was always mildly interesting at best. Thought he was a good worker. I loved his dad, so naturally I'm going to just kind of be a, default supporter of his. But overall, in AEW, he was just Cody, and when he came to WWE, just right from the get-go, man, it was like everybody was debating for months what his return is going to be. And, if it was the dumbest decision he ever made. A lot of people mad, a lot of people happy, a lot of different viewpoints and stuff, but everybody was in agreement the minute he came back. Oh, that was the right decision. When he was halfway down that aisle, because I questioned it. I didn't think it was the wrong decision to leave AEW. I was surprised. I was just shocked. That's all. I probably felt the same way Tony Schiavone or Jim Ross or anybody in the company felt. Wow, did not see that coming. But I was willing to give, as long as Cody was happy, it's all I really care about. I wasn't trying to tell him that he made the biggest mistake in the world. But I did have my doubts. And it took like 3 minutes for those doubts to just evaporate away. Because when he came up through that stage and when he was halfway down the ramp at WrestleMania last year and his pyro went off, you were like, holy shit. This is so cool. This is so cool. And now it feels like this is where he was supposed to be all the time. 1 year ago, we were saying how surreal is it to see Cody in a WWE ring? Now, how surreal would it be to see him in an AEW ring? That's how crazy things can change, and they can change so fast. I'm very pro Cody. I like him a lot. I was really hoping he would have won at WrestleMania, but he did not. Big MGM. Sorry about that. Thank you for the $2. This face run is unquestionably the best Cody ever. It is. And we'll see. And now it's going to be the true test, because one thing I've always said about Cody is that even though I love how over he is and I love that the fans are behind him, we all know how wrestling fans are. We know better than anybody because we are wrestling fans, and we know the tendencies. We know fans, behavioral tendencies. And usually in these situations, Cody is a guy that is going to, he'll wear out his welcome almost with the fans. They'll just start picking him apart once they get even slightly bored with him. But so far, I have not seen a decline since he lost at WrestleMania. Fans are still behind him. He cut a dynamite promo, no pun intended. Cut a really good promo, I thought, tonight on Raw as well. And it feels like the fans are just as behind him as they were before. So he has not faded yet. And gone in any sort of a decline. Maybe that's what Triple H is waiting to see or whatever. But I think right now Cody is still over. And if the plan is to put the belt on him, you should do it. I'm ready for a new champion. And I rarely say that. I'm ready. Something fun, different, spice it up. We haven't talked about Raw yet. Let's bust out these Raw results, because I have talked for an hour. Talked for an hour about all those other subjects. Let's talk about Raw. This won't take us too long because it was a pretty straightforward show. Like I said, lots of talent stranded with travel issues. I don't know if this was pertaining to weather. I think it was more just travel. So I don't know if the weather was really shitty up there. It's April. It can't be that bad, but maybe there was some snow or whatnot. And a lot of the talent couldn't get to the show. And apparently there was a lot of last minute rewrites to restructure everything. So I was worried that we were going to get a clusterfuck show here, but like I said in the beginning of the podcast here, I think they managed this about as well as you could under the circumstances, and maybe that's a credit to Triple H. Hopefully it is. But the show opens up with Rey Mysterio coming out, cutting a promo, talking about Dominic and yada, yada, yada. Didn't write anything down, and Dominic then comes out. He's backed up by Finn Balor. They talk some smack on the mic, a little back and forth. This whole thing leads to your typical commercial return, and it is now Rey Mysterio versus Finn Balor one-on-one. And this was a great match. I don't know how many minutes it went, but it definitely spanned a good amount of time here. And I love that I live in a world where I get to kind of regularly see matches like Rey Mysterio and Finn Balor on TV. I think they've wrestled 3 times now. Balor has won all 3. He had some help from Dominic in this one, but he did hit the coup de Gracie onto Rey for the win. That was a win I think that Finn Balor desperately needed, but that's also 2 Raw losses in a row now for Rey, as he dropped one basically with the same result to Austin Theory last week. So they need to stop doing that finish. But at the end of the day, we got Rey and Balor on TV. That's never bad. So then we cut to a pre-tape from earlier on in the day. You've got Kathy Kelly there with Otis and the Dupree girl. And as they're talking, you hear this commotion in the background, and they run to find Lita attacked. And the 2 people attending to her are her tag team championship match opponents later on in the night, Liv Morgan and Raquel. Both of them are freaking out. Just superb acting in this company. WWE is where Oscar-winning actors are born. And Liv and Raquel are like, "We just got here. We didn't do anything. We just got here. We didn't do anything." I'm like, "Okay, we get it. You're in your gear even." And they're trying to help her. Don't move, Lita. Don't move. And then Becky comes running in. "What did you do?" And they're arguing. It was just the worst, most cringiest shot segment ever. And it almost made me laugh. But Lita now got attacked. Trish also showed up there at the very end. And Liv and Raquel were playing innocent, and it was pretty obvious that they were innocent. I don't think any fan really thought that they did that. They're baby faces. It's not what baby faces do. Liv Morgan's the ultimate baby face. Raquel can be a gnarly heel, but she just isn't one right now. So the 2 of them did not do this. And then Trish kind of shows up at the end. So fans already, right? I mean, they didn't go to commercial, and we're already saying it on Twitter. Everybody was, "Trish did it. Trish did it. Trish did it." I said on Twitter, I said, maybe next week, Trish is in the ring vowing to find out who did this to Lita. And then Becky shows up on the Tron with some incriminating security camera footage of Trish attacking Lita, and then she goes, "It was me all along," or not, or of course it was me, or "You're damn right it was me," whatever the line was. I always get that one confused with the higher power. So you thought they might be saving this for next week, but it was really obvious what they were doing, because you see Lita attacked. They have a championship match later. Trish then shows up. They didn't even need to do the interview at Gorilla with Adam Pearce. You knew that Trish Stratus was going to replace Lita, and they're going to Freebird rule these three. So no big deal. So we then come back. We're at Gorilla. Becky's being interviewed. Adam Pearce is there, and Trish comes up and I guess kind of like offers her services. So very predictable spot there. Adam Pearce gives the okay. Trish can fill in for Lita, and Trish and Becky can defend the tag team titles against Raquel and Liv Morgan. And then we have the match, and Liv and Raquel did pick up the win. I forgot who pinned who here. It was kind of like a quick little victory there, kind of catching, two that really haven't teamed together before, other than the 6-woman. Took advantage of that and were able to win the tag team titles. And they seemed very surprised, very happy. It was a shocker to the fans, but you could kind of see how it was written. I thought they would save the title change for a little bit down the road, but once they put Trish in there in Lita's place, that told you exactly what was going to happen. They're probably going to drop the belts. I was hoping that it would be Ronda and Shayna finding their way to Becky and Lita, but instead they're going to give it to Liv and Raquel, and now Shayna and Ronda will probably take the titles from them. So we have new women's tag team champions, which is cool, but the post-match thing was so obvious, like you just knew something was going to go down. Even the three of them had kind of promised twists and turns in this story prior to WrestleMania. We have seen no twists and turns yet. So when you combine that with the rumors of Becky and Trish working a program, it was there. And the two ladies, they're two of my favorites. Trish is my favorite all-time female wrestler of all time ever. of all time. I love Trish Stratus. I think she's great. Becky Lynch, I also like. I think Becky Lynch might be Elizabeth's favorite women's wrestler in WWE. But the two of them should have known better or done better with this. This was one of the worst executed heel turns I've ever seen. It was way too obvious. They're trying to do the deal where after the loss, they console each other and they're hugging each other. It's okay. But the way they're trying to get in position to do the heel turn, it took too long. And they even came back and like hugged a second time. It was just really awkward. Like when you go in to give somebody a handshake or a hug and you don't know which one you're supposed to do. It's like that. And I'm like, this is terrible. I wanted to like look away. It was so bad. And then finally I'm like, Becky, you need to turn your back. You need to turn your back so she can hit you. And finally Becky turns around, Trish hits her, takes her down and turns on her. And we don't really know why. And there's a whole nother element to this with Lita being attacked. We don't know if Trish turning on Becky also means that she's the one that took out Lita. Because I don't even know what that would mean or how that would work. Like if Becky and Trish are going to work a program now, like was made apparent tonight on Raw, what sense would it make for Trish to be the one who took out Lita? Why would these two women who are both retired and at this point extreme part-time, and when they do come in, work in Saudi Arabia shows and Rumbles at best, and the occasional SummerSlam match with Trish, but why would Trish attack Lita? And like, why would these two women at this point want to undo or erase their friendship and their history that they've had? Unless, of course, maybe the two of them got together and said, hey, let's have one more match together for old time's sake or for fun, or just to put a little cherry on top of our careers together and that sort of thing. Maybe that's something the two of them wanted to do and WWE is going to let them do that. So before Trish gets to Becky, she's going to take on Lita after she reveals that she was the one that attacked Lita, but that doesn't make any sense to me. I think it might make more sense for Lita to be in on this. Again, there's not enough story here for you to be able to really determine a motivation. Like even if that's the case, what is the motivation here? The only one I could think of, the only story I could think of that they would have time to tell is either alluding to the match that Lita and Becky had a couple of years ago, whenever that was, maybe it was last year. Or maybe since the three of them have kind of been a unit here in the last month or so, maybe Trish and Lita decided that Becky's too arrogant. Becky, looks down on them or is condescending towards them or thinks she's a bigger star than them. And so the two veterans have decided to teach her a lesson. And so maybe they staged this whole thing, but why would Lita actively stage herself to lose the titles? The match looked like a legit match. I don't think Trish was faking her way through the match. I think she was legitimately trying to win. So it almost felt like the heel turn was a spontaneous thing, and she just decided out of frustration to attack Becky. So who knows what all of this means? At the end of the day, it's going to mean at least a match and potentially even a program between Becky Lynch and Trish. And I think that can be a lot of fun. The two of them did terrible in the heel turn. That was just awkward and bad. So I hope and I believe that the matches will be better. I think the promos have a potential to be super hot, and you've got potential there in a program. But now it feels like this is coming way too soon. I would just think Becky and Trish is something that you would want on the marquee for SummerSlam, not Backlash. But it might be Backlash unless they do the deal where Becky is going to challenge Trish, and Trish is going to back off or ignore or not come to TV for weeks and weeks. And every week it'll just be Becky Lynch calling out Trish, no Trish, no Trish, until we get a little closer to the summer. I don't know how they're going to work that out, but we might get a match at Backlash. So if we do, we'll have to see if that's the only one or if it leads to a rematch later on in the summer with maybe a blow off at SummerSlam. And we have to see where Lita fits into this as well. At this point, it could go anywhere. I'm mildly interested in this at best. Like I said, I think Trish and Becky have a lot of potential. But so far, everything I've seen with the Trish, Lita, and Becky storyline has been not very interesting, to be honest. I can't lie. Just got to be honest. So anyway, new tag team champions on Raw. Tag team title change and a heel turn all in the same match. That's nice. Paul Heyman then did an interview backstage. He alluded to Riddle and Zayn being stuck in their travel issues, so they're not here. But all of the bloodline sans Roman is here, and Solo is in the main event against Kevin Owens. So Kevin Owens is in a world of shit, and Paul Heyman knows it. But he did drop the hint there. As soon as they interviewed him and he mentioned Riddle and Zayn, I said, if Riddle and Zayn were able to get to the building, they'll just save them for a run-in save. And that's exactly what we got. Here's a match I like. Oh my God, this was great. So Bobby Lashley took on Bronson Reed. I'm still not over how WWE completely fucked Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania. I think that was horseshit. But I'm glad to see what they did here, because when Lashley was going to face Bronson Reed, I'm like, oh man, it's like too soon. I'm not ready for Bronson to lose a match yet. But if Reed is going to lose a match, who better to lose it to than somebody like Lashley? But I like that they are going to make this a thing between the two of them, because this could be a lot of fun. This match was a good sloppy fight, but it was still entertaining. They beat the hell out of each other, and Lashley trying to get the hurt lock on Bronson's massive frame. He couldn't even get his hands locked together because he was so big. So that renders the hurt lock useless, which means Bobby Lashley is going to have to figure out another way. So the two spill out to the outside. They're brawling all over the outside area. And Bronson Reed posts Bobby Lashley right in front of the referee. He calls for the bell. Lashley gets the win, but via DQ. And then we have a pull apart with all the referees and officials coming out trying to separate these guys. That's great. We're going to get Bobby Lashley and Bronson Reed at Backlash. And even though I think Bobby Lashley was royally screwed at WrestleMania, and I think it was crap what they did to him, I would consider putting over Bronson Reed at Backlash. I would. Bobby Lashley is 45 years old. Bronson Reed is a guy that seems like they're trying to give, a semi-push to as a big guy. He's got Vader, Bam Bam Bigelow tendencies to him. He's a big, rough guy, maybe a little more Vader than Bam Bam. And he's kind of agile like Vader, and he's just built like Vader. And WWE seems to like him. And I think if you're going to give him any sort of an opportunity or a push, don't wait 2 years to do it. Having him beat Bobby Lashley, even if they have a couple of matches and then Lashley gets a win back, I'm fine with that. But I think Bronson should beat Bobby Lashley in one of these matches. And I think the one at Backlash would be best once that match is officially made, which I'm sure it will be by next week. Then we get a Cody Rhodes promo. So he comes out and talks about WrestleMania and talks about last week. So I did not know about the rubber chicken. I didn't know about it. I still haven't watched Cody and Roman. I haven't watched the match other than a couple of clips. So I had no idea that somebody threw a rubber chicken into the ring after his loss and it was laying right next to his head. I just somehow missed that whole thing. I think I've seen tweets or stories about Cody and a chicken, but just never cared to find out what the hell that means or what it's talking about. And then when Cody mentioned the chicken in the promo, I'm like, what is he talking about? So I went online and I'm like, oh, I see somebody throwing the chicken in. I'm like, oh, so it must have been when there was a close up on him after the loss. You could see that chicken. Is that what it was? I couldn't see the chicken from my seat. So that's hilarious. He mentions that, goes on to cut a great promo. I was bored stiff during Cody promos in AEW. I don't know why. I don't know why. I just was. Here in WWE, he's got my full attention. I don't know how my wrestling brain works because Cody just has some different vibe in WWE. Just what a great move. And this is coming from a massive AEW fan. I'm no AEW hater. I go to their shows too and I support them and I like AEW a lot. But I am so glad that Cody made that jump. It's WWE is so perfect for him. And right now he's just hitting on all cylinders. So I'm hoping that it's not too late for him. And once he's done with Brock, he can still get a chance to win the title, whether it be way of Money in the Bank, Madison Square Garden, anything like that, any different ideas. If he gets there, he gets there. But in the meantime, he's got to face Brock. And at the end of his promo, he goes on to challenge Brock Lesnar and says that he will not be a victim like everybody else has been a victim. And he challenges him at Backlash. Now, like I said earlier, my brain just assumed that if Brock and Cody are going to face, that's a match they would probably give to the Saudi crowd because WWE seems obligated to give the Saudi crowd big matches. We've seen the Brock and Cain Velasquez stuff over there and the Tyson Fury and Strowman, all that shit, you know? So we've gotten Roman and Brock over there too. So I feel like that would be a match pitted for King and Queen of the Ring to give a feature attraction match in between those two tournaments to highlight it. But Cody has challenged Brock now for Backlash, and Brock is going to be on Raw next week to answer this challenge. So it's possible that Brock says no and tries to stall, and then they do it in Saudi Arabia. But it's also starting to look like Cody and Brock actually is going to happen at Backlash. And that should be great. It will be a war. I believe Cody will win. If they have Brock beat him, then I don't know what they're going to do with Cody. So I feel like he'll have a grueling, awesome, kick-ass match with Brock Lesnar and potentially win. And then maybe he can still go on to beat Roman Reigns for the title. And then maybe one day he drops that title to Seth Rollins and gives him a win back from the 3 times he put him over. But we got a long way to go before we get to that. Good promo by Cody. Always good to see Cody. Then we get the Usos taking on Alpha Academy. Otis coming out there doing a little twist and turn during his entrance. So they are really dragging out this, what I'm assuming is going to be a turn, right? Otis is going to turn on Gable, become Otis. They've been teasing the shit. Right now, it seems like Gable is tolerating Otis's delving into modeling. It's like when George became the hand model, you know? So Otis eventually is going to be lured away, and they're going to give him some disgusting modeling gimmick that might lead to an OnlyFans page. Don't act like you guys aren't going to sign up. I know you are. And he might go all out. But they're dragging it out. And I thought he would have already made this transition by now. In the end, the Usos got the win here. Pretty good match. Really good tag team battle. No titles on the line. No nothing. Just 4 guys killing it. And it was a pretty good match. And Usos got the win. And here's a match that I completely was tuned out on. I was in the room here, but I was not paying attention. I didn't even know what was going on. It was Io Sky in the ring with Mia Yim and Piper Niven. But I could not tell what was happening. I was like, is this a handicap match or is this a triple threat match? And I wasn't, when the match was over, I was like, what the hell was that? I only caught the finish. I was trying to rewind and figure it out. And I was like, I cannot hear the announcer saying anything. I just was so tuned out. So I asked you guys on Twitter what that match was about. And you said that it was a triple threat for a shot at Bianca. So Io Sky got the win in this match, and she will now apparently get a shot at Bianca Belair. But that surprised me too, because at the beginning of the match, they were saying that like Bayley volunteered Io Sky for this opportunity, and Io looked mad about it. But if you win, you get a shot at the title. So this should make you happy. I don't know why Io was upset. Obviously, there's some tension and dissension in Damage Control, and they're probably on the way to breaking up since they've done a big pile of dick ever since they formed last summer. But it's also good to see Bayley still there. There were some concerns about Bayley not being around last week, and with the rumors of Vince McMahon being back and some of the talent maybe being pissed off, a lot of fans, I think, were assuming the worst with her and wondering if she has maybe departed the company or made it known that she doesn't want to be there anymore. But she's back to do her job, and that's good. Hopefully it'll stay that way. And it does look like they're setting up for a Damage Control split. And then when that happens, maybe Bayley can be reborn in the draft or whatever. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, so that was, thank you for that. It was winner getting a shot. I did not know what that match was about. And yes, by the way, Doug Unfunny, I've heard a lot of great things about the Dusty Doc. It's queued up on the DVR or whatever they call DVR these days. And Elizabeth and I are going to check that out tonight after this stream. So yeah, I'm excited to see the Dusty Doc. That's going to be good. I kind of forgot about it. I forgot that it was airing. So I guess they took last week off because of WrestleMania. So I completely forgot that there was going to be another one. And I'm excited to see it. Yo, Ronnie, good to see you. Thanks for chiming in, my friend. Transferring Heat is here as well. Transferring Heat, nobody was believing the rumors. We were talking about the rumors. I'm not fucking stupid. I know how to read and judge wrestling news. Who the hell do you think you're talking to here? Don't act like I'm some gullible idiot. Give me a break, Transferring Heat. I think you're dumb for saying that. Of all people, you should know that I'm not just going to believe anything I read. We fully acknowledged in the last stream that it was rumors. There's just rumors about Bayley, and nobody knows what's going on. Nothing's confirmed. How in the hell can you take that statement as me believing anything? Sorry to get a little hot like that, but it's shit like that. You guys don't listen. At least you don't. You don't. Where would Bayley go? Up your ass, Transferring Heat. That's where she would go. Up your wide ass. F off. All right, let's see. Let's talk about the main event. Kevin Owens taking on Solo Sikoa. This was a good match on paper as well. Solo is just this producing enforcer. He's the only member of the bloodline that just never disappoints Roman Reigns. And the Usos have got a lot going on with them and their relationship with Roman. And now Kevin Owens has got to go in by himself with no backup to take on the enforcer of the bloodline with the Usos floating around. And they were out there for this match. These two guys beat the hell out of each other too. It was a really good match, but it was a predictable match because there was no way Kevin Owens was going to get a win here over Solo with no Sami Zayn, no Riddle, who returned last week, and no help at all. So that's exactly what happened. The Usos were out there. They were interfering a lot. Jay caught Kevin Owens with a super kick when he was in the corner. Samoan spike to the face, and Solo Sikoa picked up the win there, beat Kevin Owens in the main event. The three of them continued the post-match beatdown on Kevin Owens, and as predicted, Riddle and Zayn were in fact there. They arrived right at the last minute. Very good timing, and who would have thought they would have traveled in their gear? What a relief. So they hit the ring, they scare off the bloodline, and they stand with Kevin Owens, and the show goes off the air. So that's how things ended, and that was a pretty decent Monday Night Raw, I think, under the circumstances with the talent dealing with the travel issues and everything. So I thought they did pretty good. It was good wrestling. We didn't get a whole lot in terms of anything beyond like Cody and Trish, although that Bronson Reed and Bobby Lashley stuff was good. So I feel like there was three storylines that really were furthered. Everything else was kind of filler, but the filler was good and the matches were good and everybody, I think, did their best. And I'll give props to WWE tonight. I would give if this was a normal Raw, I'd probably only give this a 6 out of 10, but since they dealt with travel issues, let's give them a 7.5 out of 10. Good job, WWE World Wrestling Entertainment crew and staff and wrestlers. Way to go. So that's it. That's the end of my notes. Has Transferring Heat blocked me yet? Bayley would go to Japan with Sasha. They could do some stuff over there, but that would also require WWE to give her a full release and all of that stuff. And I think they would try their best to keep Bayley around. You would have to. Bayley's awesome. And it sucks that the 4 horsewomen are crumbling. I mean, imagine if Bayley did leave. Now you've lost 2 of your 4 horsewomen. The other 2 don't like each other. Charlotte's taking time off as well. Man. Rarely even 5 more from you. Do Cody and Dusty remind you of their dad in any way? Yes, of course. Dustin especially. He looks very much alike, like Dusty. And even when Dustin was first getting into wrestling, go look at early natural Dustin Rhodes. As a matter of fact, he first showed up in WWE before he started, in WCW, because that's where Dusty was. When he came in like 91 or 90, whenever that was, listen to his promos. Look him up on YouTube right now. Look up Dustin Rhodes WWE 1990 promo. Oh my God, he does the Dusty voice. He's basically trying to be a tall, skinny version of Dusty, emulating his voice way too much. It's way over the top. He does it well, but it's kind of cringy. I'm like, that's not you, Dustin. Trying to be like exactly like your dad. So Dustin has always looked like Dusty. He's got Dusty's face and hair and kind of got that same look to him. Cody's a little bit different. Cody's a little bit better looking than the both of them, to be honest. Strapping young man, that Cody Rhodes, but he has a lot of Dusty mannerisms. As a matter of fact, he dropped the offer up your innocence line. That's a Dusty line that he said tonight in his promo. And there's some mannerisms and, some tones in his speech and stuff that is exactly like Dusty. We're all like that with our dads. I don't look exactly like my dad, but there's a few words that I say, and there's some things that I do, like when I clear my throat, we have the same throat clearing voice. Like we sound exactly like, and it's eerie. And when I say certain words, I hear his voice, but it's not with everything I say. It's just certain things, and I can pick those things out in Cody with Dusty. It's crazy. He's definitely his father's son, but maybe not as much as Dustin, because Dustin really looks like him. Yeah, dashing. That's what I meant. Do I call him strapping Cody Rhodes? Dashing Cody Rhodes. Maybe call him Rex Steiner now. Yeah, Bronson. I'm sorry. No, what's his name? Braun Breaker. Turned heel. That's good. That's what he needs to be. I missed all the fun at WrestleCon with his dad. The Rick Steiner drama. The homophobic, bigoted asshole comments that came out of his fat trap took place on Friday. I didn't even go to WrestleCon on Friday, but on Saturday and Sunday I was there. I walked by the Steiner's table. Scott was there, but no Rick. So he did not return, and I think WrestleCon issued some sort of an apology. So that whole situation was a mess, but luckily it was one that I didn't have to be a part of. So hopefully none of that will trickle down onto Bronson, or I keep calling him Braun Breaker, because none of that shit is his fault. And I think being heel is exactly what he needs to be. If they're going to bring him up, I think maybe the draft, would you think? How much longer would you wait for a Breaker call-up in WWE now that Carmelo is champion? Let's do it now, right? True, that Max, if they're going to put Cody and Brock and Trish and Becky on Backlash, they're giving Puerto Rico a pretty awesome show. I mean, if Bad Bunny is going to be associated with WWE, just much like the Saudis, if they're going to give WWE all those billions of dollars, they may need to make sure they deliver memorable shows and good cards. And if Bad Bunny is going to give WWE his publicity and his name, they need to do the same for him. So if they put a couple of big matches, Brock and Cody, because we're not going to have Roman on the show. So Brock and Cody's going to have to be your main event. So I don't know why I thought that match would be better penciled in for Saudi Arabia. Makes sense that it would be at Backlash. That'll go on last. And Cody will win in Puerto Rico. Another territory that his dad passed through a bunch of times. Just reading some comments. All right. I think I've got most of them here. Just making sure I didn't miss any other major issue that you guys wanted to discuss. Storm, and never in a million years would you see Trish turn heel. Really? She's been heel like 3 different times in her career. She turned heel at WrestleMania one time. She was a heel a lot. Trish heel should be very easy to imagine in your head. Making sure I got all the super chats and all that stuff. All right, right on. I think I knocked everything out. I want to say thank you to you guys for being here. I do really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the super chats, and thank you to everybody who gifted memberships to other folks. That is really awesome. Still pretty low on the likes. It would be helpful. You guys could hit that on your way out the door as well. And I will try to be here this week with something. One of the reasons why I wanted to come up here tonight was just in case you don't see me, because I'm not going to be here for a Dynamite watch along this week either. But I will be up here this week for a video if we get any major news. You know, if CM Punk announces he's coming back, you'll see me. I might post some other stuff on the second channel and some stuff over here as well. But the next long form podcast will come this Saturday. Finally, the Winged Eagle will return after taking last week off, and we'll have a full loaded podcast. And then this Sunday, we're going to do another watch along, and we've got to decide that. I'm going to put up a poll here on YouTube and let the channel members decide this. If you're a member, you can vote on this. It's probably going to be down to ECW Barely Legal 1997, a WCW Spring Stampede, one of those. I got to decide which one. Maybe another Backlash, like Backlash 03 with Goldberg and Rock. A couple of April-related shows. So I'm going to put up a list, put up a poll in the next couple of days. So keep a lookout on the community tab for that. And vote on the watch along for this Sunday. It should be fun. You guys have a great rest of your Monday. Thanks for being here, and I will see you in just a few days.